Hello everyone. Tonight we step onto a dying world in the far future of Warhammer 40K. The air is toxic, the sky burns with orbital fire, and the ground trembles with the boots of marching enemies. You stand among the ruins of an imperial planet, condemned, forgotten, and marked for annihilation. The administratum will not save you. The Astric Militarum is broken, and in the deepest vaults of a shattered hive, a single dreadnought stirs. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. Drop a comment with your location and your local time. It's always a strange comfort to know who else is awake when the Imperium's night feels endless. And so the wheel of fate turns again. Sacrifice has been made. The first key has turned, and mankind takes one step closer to the light of the throne. This is not the end. This is only the beginning. The planet is nameless to you. It had a designation once, a string of numbers, an honorific title, maybe even a saint's blessing. But like most imperial worlds, it is only another mark on the ledger. What matters now is survival. The sky above burns red as orbital bombardments rip apart the atmosphere. You breathe through a rebreather mask that filters little of the poison. The taste of ash never leaves your tongue. Lore masters still debate whether the Imperium truly values its frontier worlds, or if they are sacrificed as pawns in a galaxy-wide war. To you, standing on scorched ground, it doesn't matter. The truth is ash and fire. The hive city you see is broken. Whole districts are gone, reduced to skeletal towers jutting from oceans of rubble. The streets stink of promethium, burned flesh, and spoiled water. Once this hive housed billions. Now the survivors are only tens of thousands, clustered in shadows, waiting for an enemy that will not show mercy. Historians still argue whether dreadnoughts are blessings or curses. Entombed warriors, forever half-living, bound to engines of war older than most planets. Some argue they are honored. Others whisper they are damned. You will find out soon. The dreadnought lies in a cathedral fortress, buried beneath collapsed ferrocrete and half-melted stained glass. Statues of saints lean at broken angles, and the once gilded altar is blackened by fire. In the crypt below, sealed by rust and faith, the sarcophagus machine waits. Its slumber has lasted decades. Sometimes the machine spirit groans. Sometimes the entombed warrior whispers, though no living soul hears him. You walk through those ruins. Imagine the silence, broken only by distant artillery. Your boots crunch glass. A Vox speaker crackles once, then dies. Above you, servo skulls drift aimlessly, their data cores fried by EMP blasts. The defenders of this world cling to their weapons. Guardsmen, half-starved, hold lost guns with trembling hands. Priests preach, their voices hoarse, promising salvation that never comes. Children dig trenches with bloody fingers, because the alternative is to sit and wait for slaughter. One guardsman scratches a tally on the wall. Days since reinforcements. The numbers stopped weeks ago. In the underhive, civilians barter scraps for water that tastes of rust. They whisper rumors that a giant sleeps below, a relic of a forgotten chapter. Some laugh bitterly. Others pray louder. One old man swears he saw the machine stir when the ground shook from an orbital strike. Maybe he was drunk, or maybe he wasn't. The truth is, a dreadnought waits there. A relic of the Adeptus Astartes, left behind long ago. A warrior mortally wounded in some forgotten crusade, interred in a sarcophagus to fight again. His chapter no longer answers calls. His battle brothers are gone. He is alone. And now, as the planet dies, the machine stirs. Cooling vents release clouds of steam like dragon's breath. A single red optic flickers, alive in the dark. The sound is low, grinding, heavy. The awakening of a giant in a tomb of dust. You feel it in your chest, a vibration more than a sound. Here's a quirky trivia for you. Some dreadnoughts in the Imperium are so ancient that their pilots fought in the Great Crusade itself, over 10,000 years ago. Imagine being entombed, half-conscious, for millennia, only to be awakened again when another war demands your suffering. That's not honor. That's torment stretched across centuries. And so you stand on this dying world, Above, the enemy fleets tighten their grip. Below, the last Dreadnought awakens. And in between you, a fragile human, one heartbeat away from nothingness. It's grim, it's absurd, and it's only going to get worse. The fortress above you is little more than rubble now. But once it was the heart of the hive, a cathedral built on the bones of industry, where manufacturers churned out weapons, armor, and the endless supplies a hive needs just to keep breathing. Now only silence lingers here. Silence and the groan of collapsing spires. The forgotten fortress carries scars from centuries of war. You can trace the history just by looking at the walls. Melted craters from melted charges. Scorch marks from lost fire. Rusty holes torn by bolt rounds. Every layer of destruction tells you that this place has been under siege more times than you can count. And each time it was rebuilt, patched up, consecrated, used again. Now though, there will be no rebuilding. Not when the enemy hangs in orbit like vultures circling a carcass. Lore masters still debate whether hive cities were ever designed to last, or if they were simply disposable shells to keep human labor in one place. The administrative records say they are eternal monuments to the Emperor's will. But when you stand here, looking at crumbling towers and flooded under hives, you know the truth. Eternal just means until the next bombardment. The Dreadnought rests deep beneath this forgotten fortress. The vault that holds him was once a shrine. Pilgrims used to come here before the planet fell into ruin. They knelt before the sarcophagus machine, whispering prayers as if it were a saint's relic. Some even left offerings, scraps of metal, bones of martyrs, fragments of scripture. Now the offerings are gone. Scavengers pick them clean. You step over cracked tequila tiles and broken pews. The statues of saints have lost their faces, worn smooth by fire and acid rain. Candles long melted still cling to the altars. And in the distance, you hear the faint echo of chanting. A priest still sings in the ruins. His voice cracks, but it echoes through the broken vault like the last stubborn heartbeat of faith. Historians still argue whether the fortress cathedrals of the Imperium serve as true defenses or just symbols of loyalty. The walls are too thick, yes, but too rigid. They break under orbital fire. Their designs are more about grandeur than practicality. When the first shells land, the stained glass shatters before the first guard squad even takes position. The defenders here know that. You see it in their eyes. A squad of guardsmen huddles in the shadows of a nave. Their uniforms are torn and their armor plates are dented. They pass around a single canteen, each taking the smallest sip. One of them sharpens a bayonet with a piece of rubble. Another, younger than he should be, whispers a litany of protection that even he doesn't believe. They cling to this fortress not because it can hold, but because they have nowhere else left to stand. Here's your trivia for tonight. Some Imperial records note that when a Dreadnought is stationed on a world, the administrator will sometimes deliberately underfund defenses. Why? Because they believe a single Dreadnought is sufficient deterrence. Think about that. Billions of lives placed on the back of one half-dead warrior strapped into a walking coffin. Practical? No. Typical? Absolutely. You feel the weight of the forgotten fortress pressing down. The rubble shifts as artillery pounds outside. Dust falls like snow. Somewhere above, another spire collapses, the crash shaking the vault walls. The enemy is closing in. You hear their war horns echo across the ruins. But still the fortress stands, not because it is strong, but because it is stubborn. Like you, like every guardsman still alive. And in its deepest chamber, the Dreadnought listens. His sensors, old and half-broken, catch faint sounds of war above. His sarcophagus thrums with the dull ache of life. He is not fully awake yet, but the fortress whispers to him. The dead call out, and his mind stirs, remembering. You can almost imagine him thinking, not yet, but soon. You hear it first as a low hum, like the groan of an old machine struggling to breathe. Deep in the fortress vault, the Dreadnought stirs. His awakening is not sudden. It is slow, painful, like a man clawing his way out of drowning sleep. The machine's spirit resists at first, old gears grinding, hydraulics coughing out bursts of steam. Then, with a shudder that rattles the ground, the sarcophagus breathes again. Entombed inside is a warrior who once had a name, though few remember it now. He was a space marine, once bright with the zeal of youth. He fought with brothers, trained beneath the banners of his chapter, and carried the Emperor's wrath into battle. His life was not long by mortal standards, but long enough to carve scars into galaxies. When his body broke beyond repair, his brothers carried him to the sarcophagus. They told him it was an honor. They told him he would fight again. Lore masters still debate whether this honor is mercy or cruelty. To live without the freedom of flesh, to dream without waking, to fight only when the machine calls. Some believe dreadnoughts are blessed, spared from death, so they may continue their sacred duty. Others whisper that they are cursed, condemned to a half-life of metal and memory. Historians still argue whether the earliest dreadnoughts came from the dark age of technology or were crafted later by the Mechanicus. Whatever the truth, by the 41st millennium, they are relics. Ancient machines patched together by prayer as much as by engineering. To entomb a warrior is not a choice taken lightly. The sarcophagus cannot be opened again without killing the occupant. Once you are placed inside, you are no longer man, no longer marine. You are something else. The pilot inside remembers flashes of his life. A battlefield drenched in ash. A brother laughing beside him. A sword cutting through armor. And then pain. Pain so sharp it blotted out everything else. He remembers the apothecaries bending over him, their voices muffled, promising he would fight again. He remembers the cold bite of metal as the sarcophagus sealed. After that, only silence. You imagine his memories stirring now as he wakes. In his mind, he still walks as a Marine. He still feels the weight of a bolter in his hands. He still smells promethium and blood. But the reality is different. His limbs are steel. His blood is machine oil. His body is gone, and only fragments of his old self remain. Here's your quirky trivia. Many dreadnoughts are only awakened for war. They sleep between battles, dreaming in half-conscious silence. To conserve their sanity, chapters allow them rest. But sometimes, a dreadnought can sleep for centuries without waking. When he does, the galaxy he knew is gone, and his memories are ghosts. Imagine falling asleep on one battlefield and waking up 1,000 years later to fight in another war you don't understand. The fortress groans as another artillery strike lands above. The vibrations carry down into the vault. Dust falls across the sarcophagus. The pilot hears it. His mind sharpens. Slowly, systems begin to light within him. Servo motors twitch. Hydraulic limbs adjust. The old machine, forgotten by the world above, comes alive once more. But it is not joy that stirs him. It is duty. The same duty that carried him into the sarcophagus. The same duty that will not let him rest, even now. He does not know the name of this world. He does not care. What matters is that there are enemies. And where there are enemies, there is war. You stand in the ruins above, and you feel it too. The ground shakes. A sound like a heartbeat echoes from below. Slow, heavy, relentless. The last dreadnought is awake. The sarcophagus opens not outward, but inward, not to release, but to confine. For the warrior inside, there is no escape. His body, shattered long ago, is fused into life support systems that pierce flesh and nerve. Tubes pump recycled fluids through what remains of his veins. Metal ribs clamp where bones once were. His lungs are gone. Filters and valves breathe for him. His voice is not his own, but a modulated growl projected through vox grills. This is the dreadnought, a coffin of steel, a throne of torment. You cannot leave it. You cannot rest in it. You simply exist, half living, half dead, until war demands you again. Lore masters still debate whether the ritual of interment is meant to save or to punish. The Mechanicus claims it preserves the chapter's greatest assets. Chaplains call it holy ascension. But among Marines themselves, there is a quiet dread. To be entombed is to lose yourself piece by piece. To die, but not truly. To live, but not fully. Historians still argue whether some chapters refuse to make dreadnoughts at all, fearing the cost of such half-life. There are records of worlds where a mortally wounded Marine is granted a clean death instead of interment. Others, more pragmatic, call that wasteful. Every warrior must serve until his last breath, even if that breath is made by machine. The pilot remembers the moment of his entombment. He remembers lying broken on a battlefield, unable to rise. He remembers his brothers lifting him, chanting litanies as they carried him into the fortress. He remembers the sarcophagus closing, sealing him away from light forever. And then silence, a silence that stretched for decades, broken only by rare awakenings when war demanded his strength. Inside the machine coffin, time blurs. You do not dream the way mortals do. You drift. You hear the hum of the machine spirit. You feel the pulse of circuits. Sometimes you think you hear voices. Sometimes you cannot tell if they are real. Here's your trivia. In some cases, dreadnoughts have gone mad inside their coffins. Chapters call them black sleepers. When awakened, their minds are broken, and they attack friend and foe alike. In such cases, their brothers have no choice but to destroy them. Few speak of it, but it happens. Even a machine can rot. The fortress groans again as enemy fire batters the hive. The dreadnought systems whine, cycling up. He does not think of comfort. He does not think of peace. He thinks only of war. The sarcophagus does not ask him if he wants to fight. It demands it. Hydraulic pistons slam into place. Auto sensors calibrate. Old weapons hum with life. The pilot feels it all, but not as a man feels his body. He does not feel hands or feet. He feels pressure, vibration, feedback. The roar of a lost cannon is like a heartbeat. The grind of armor plates is like the groan of old bones. He is not man, not machine, but something in between. You imagine what it would be like, trapped, unable to sleep, unable to die. Every time you close your eyes, you see war. Every time you wake, it is to more war. There's no end, no relief, only battle after battle, until the sarcophagus fails or the machine burns. And yet this is the Imperium's way. No rest for its champions. No mercy for its wounded. You fight until the end, even if your body is gone. Even if only your mind remains. Above, the hive burns. Below, the machine coffin groans as the last dreadnought rises to his feet. His voice box crackles with a single word, dragged from the depths of memory. War. The enemy does not descend like raiders. They come as an army. You hear it first in the vox chatter. Panic voices, static bursts. Then silence as channels go dead one by one. Then the sky itself cracks. Orbital fire streaks through the clouds, hammering the hive spires. Whole towers collapse in seconds, their echoes rolling through the ruins like thunder. You climb higher in the rubble to see them. Dropships punch through the burning atmosphere, hulls glowing red from reentry. Gunships scream low across the hive, strafing with autocannons. The enemy does not sneak. They announce themselves with fire and noise. To them, this planet is already theirs. Lore masters still debate whether the Imperium's enemies choose cruelty for strategy or simply because it is their nature. Orcs descend like storms of green, laughing as they kill. Chaos warbands strike not just to conquer, but to desecrate. Tyranids strip everything down to biomass, leaving only silence. Each invader is different, but for the defenders, it makes no difference. Death wears many faces, but it always feels the same. Historians still argue whether this world was worth defending at all. Administrative records list it as a Tier 3 production node. Not a shrine world, not a fortress. Just another cog in the Imperial machine. Billions once lived here, and billions died here. But in the cold math of the Imperium, it is just one more entry on a ledger. If it falls, another hive world takes its place. The enemy force that lands now knows this. They know the Imperium is stretched thin. No reinforcements will come. The Astra Militarum on this planet is scattered, leaderless, and starving. What remains of the PDF are little more than civilians with rifles. The hive spires are already broken. This is not a war. It is a harvest. You watch as the first enemy troops pour from their transports. They move with discipline, securing kill zones, sweeping hab blocks, torching anything that might hide survivors. Civilians scatter, hunted down in alleys. Guardsmen open fire from shattered windows. only to be silenced by heavy weapons within minutes. The fortress shakes as another bombardment lands. Rubble cascades down its walls. The old cathedral groans, but does not yet fall. In its depths, the Dreadnought listens. He does not care who the enemy is. Chaos, Orc, Xenos, it does not matter. To him, they are all the same, targets. Here's a piece of trivia. Some Dreadnoughts are awakened not by order, but by instinct. Their sarcophagi are tied to the machine spirits of their fortress. When a structure is shaken hard enough, when the machine spirit senses a threat, it triggers the Dreadnought systems. It is less like waking a man and more like firing up a reactor. The pilot inside has little choice. He wakes because the machine wills it. You feel the tension rise in the air. Guardsmen cling to their lost guns, waiting for orders that never come. Civilians flee deeper into the hive, toward the very vault that hides a Dreadnought, unaware of what stirs below. Priests scream louder, calling down fire from the throne that never answers. And then the enemy begins their push into the heart of the city. Block by block, ruin by ruin they advance. They drag prisoners behind them, chain them to their vehicles, use them as shields. Resistance is crushed swiftly. You hear screams echo across the ruins, carried by the poisoned wind. The defenders know they cannot hold, yet they fight anyway, because there's nowhere to run. Behind them lies only more ash and ruin. Ahead of them, the enemy, and below them, the last hope, a Dreadnought older than memory, waiting to rise. The enemy does not know he is there, not yet, but soon they will. The first breach comes at dawn. Not that dawn means much here. The skies are choked with smoke and ash, the sun reduced to a faint, red smear. But the enemy keeps time regardless. At the hour when mortals are weakest, when bodies ache from hunger and fatigue, they strike. Explosives pound against the fortress gates. The once ornate adamantium doors buckle and warp. With each detonation, centuries of prayer scrolls burn away in an instant. Statues of saints already cracked crumble into dust. What was once holy is reduced to rubble. You are inside now, walking the halls with the defenders. Civilians huddle in alcoves, mothers clutching children, men carrying only rusted tools. Guardsmen form firing lines in the nave, lost guns trembling in their hands. A priest kneels before the altar, screaming at the heavens. His voice is raw, a rasp of blood and spit. Deliver us, O Emperor, from the claws of the heretic. Deliver us from the Xenos. Deliver us from death. The Emperor does not answer, but something else does. In the crypts below, where the air is thick with oil and dust, machinery stirs. Cables strain. Hydraulic pistons twitch. The sarcophagus at the heart of the vault hums with sudden, violent life. Red optics flare open, casting long beams of light across the chamber. The Dreadnought's machine spirit has awakened, and with it, the warrior entombed inside. Imagine being trapped in that prison for centuries. Your body is gone, replaced with wires and metal. Your memories bleed together with machine code. You do not dream, you do not sleep, only silence. And then, without warning, the silence ends. Pain surges back. Awareness returns. The world crashes in like a tidal wave. His first breath is not air but fire, the rush of reactors burning hot. His first movement is not flesh but steel grinding against steel. His voice, when it comes, is not human, but a metallic roar that shakes the stone around him. Above, the gates finally collapse. The enemy surges forward, howling, weapons raised. They expect terrified mortals, weak prey. They expect to slaughter. Instead, the floor beneath their boots trembles. The cathedral walls shake as something vast claws its way up from the crypts. Here is a fact the enemy forgot. Ruins are not always tombs. Sometimes they are cages, and sometimes cages break. The Dreadnought steps into the light for the first time in generations. His frame is scarred, ancient, draped with fragments of banners that no longer matter. Cannons mounted to his arms whine as they cycle up. Each step he takes is an earthquake. Civilians scatter. Guardsmen fall silent. Priests weep with renewed faith. And the enemy for the first time since they landed, hesitates. Because what faces them now is not prey. It is not a dying fortress. It is not a broken people. It is vengeance given form. The Dreadnought raises his weapon. The first shot rips through the nave, vaporizing invaders in a spray of fire and blood. The second shot collapses the entryway, sealing off retreat. Screams echo across the ruins. Chaos spreads through the ranks. And with each kill, the warrior inside remembers who he once was. Not a relic, not a prisoner, not a ghost. A space marine. The battlefield shifts. What had been a doomed defense becomes a slaughter, though not the one the enemy imagined. The Dreadnought moves through the shattered nave with a slow, grinding inevitability. Each step crushes bone. Each gesture delivers death. His weapons roar like the voice of judgment itself. The enemy fires back, of course. Autoguns chatter, bolters thud. Crude rockets streak through the air. But the rounds do little more than scar his already wounded armor. Every impact chips away at the sarcophagus. Every strike reminds him of pain. But none of it is enough to stop him. The Dreadnought has walked through worse fires before. He has walked through wars that span galaxies. Inside the Iron Tomb, the warrior remembers fragments. Memories bleed into the present, half lost in static. He sees flashes of a battlefield long ago. His brothers standing beside him, banners snapping in the wind. He remembers their faces, but not their names. He remembers the Emperor's light, but not its warmth. Only the oath remains. Fight until there is nothing left to fight with. The cathedral is now a furnace. The shrieks of the enemy blend with the hiss of burning incense and the crash of falling stone. Guardsmen rally, emboldened by the monster of steel that has risen among them. They pour lost fire into the enemy ranks, their fear burned away by the sight of impossible survival. Yet even as victory surges, there is no joy, no hope. The Dreadnought's presence is not salvation. It is a curse. To see him fight is to see what it means to be broken, to be denied death, to be forced to fight forever. The civilians who cower in the shadows see it, even if they cannot name it. The Emperor's will is not mercy. It is endurance. Eternal, merciless endurance. The enemy brings up heavier weapons now. Chain's words scream as berserkers charge, howling praises to their dark gods. Flammers hiss, spilling liquid fire across the sacred walls. The Dreadnought wades into them like a titan, swatting men aside, tearing through armor with a contemptuous sweep of his claws. Blood slicks the stones. Skulls tumble like gravel beneath his feet. But with each enemy destroyed, more pour in. The cathedral becomes a sea of bodies, a tide of madness. The Dreadnought cannot hold them forever. Even iron breaks eventually. Even legends rust. And here is the final cruelty. He knows it. The warrior inside feels the strain of his failing reactor, the growing resistance in every joint. He knows that this is not a victory, but a delay, a last gasp of defiance before the inevitable. Still, he does not stop. He cannot stop. His body is a prison, but his oath is stronger than iron. To falter now would mean betrayal. To rest would mean dishonor. To surrender would mean to admit that the Emperor had abandoned him. And so he fights on. The nave is an abattoir now. Smoke burns the eyes. Screams never end. The faithful and the damned die in equal measure, ground beneath the boots of an uncaring war. The stained glass above shatters, and through the falling shards of colored light, the Dreadnought rises once more, roaring in defiance at gods, both false and true. This is the truth of the Imperium. Not hope, not glory, not salvation, only endurance sharpened into a weapon. The fire spreads faster than you expect. One moment, the cathedral smolders, the next, its roof glows like a forge. Timber beams collapse with the sound of cannon fire, burying screaming men beneath avalanches of stone. The scent of burning incense is gone, replaced by scorched flesh and molten metal. And still you fight. The guardsmen, ragged and half-mad, cling to your shadow. They fire from behind your bulk, using you as a living wall. They know you will not fall easily. They also know you cannot last forever. Some whisper prayers to you instead of the Emperor. Others curse you as a walking tomb, a reminder of what awaits them should they live too long in war. Lore masters still debate whether the cult of the Dreadnought is blasphemy or faith. In one sector, shrines rise around their forms. In another, priests denounce them as cursed mockeries of flesh. Here, though, the question doesn't matter. The men see your burning frame, your weapons spitting fire, and they choose belief, because without it, they would already be dead. You move slowly, but each step counts. Flammers sweep across your chest, leaving trails of bubbling ceramite. Chain axes bite into your legs, sparking off adamantium. You crush the wielders underfoot, and for everyone you kill, 3 more leap into the breach. Faith sustains the soldiers. Rage sustains the foe. But you locked inside your iron coffin are sustained by nothing but stubborn will. You don't care what lore masters argue or what priests preach. You fight because you were told to fight. You fight because stopping is not allowed. Historians still argue whether this war ever mattered. Some records suggest the planet was never even on official star charts. Others hint at forgotten vaults buried beneath its hives, things too dangerous to abandon. Whatever the truth, the Imperium bled for this place, and you, its last titan, remain the final coin to be spent. A plasma blast slams into your torso. Warning runes flare in your sarcophagus. Pain floods your senses sharper than knives. For a heartbeat, you almost welcome it. Pain proves you still exist. Pain proves you are still fighting. You stagger, then right yourself. The guardsmen cheer, though the sound is hollow, drowned by the thunder of war. And then comes the hymn. Somewhere above the chaos, a priest begins to chant. His voice cracks, but he persists, shouting over the screams and bolter fire. Others join him, and soon the ruined nave echoes with desperate praise to the throne. The sound fills you, cutting through the static of your failing mind. It is not comfort, but it is purpose. You crush another berserker with your power fist. The hymn rises louder. You torch a squad with your flamer. The hymn becomes a roar. For a moment, the battle feels like ritual. Every step, every blow, every scream is an offering. Fire is incense, blood is libation, ruin is sacrifice. But rituals end. The hymn breaks as the priest is cut down. Silence swallows the words. Only your cannons remain, pounding away at the tide of flesh and metal. Your vision flickers. Servo motors grind like teeth. The sarcophagus vibrates as your reactor strains. You know this cannot last. But you also know you will not stop, not until your last weapon breaks, not until your final limb is torn away. Fire and faith are all that remain on this world. You burn with one. The guardsmen cling to the other. Both are fading and both are doomed. The hive around you crumbles, but still you stand. And the wheel of fate continues to turn. The battle grows quiet in strange moments, like the hush between lightning and thunder. You hear the hiss of your vents, the scrape of broken masonry, the strained breath of guardsmen sheltering at your heels. Then the storm resumes. Bolters roar, blades clash, and the hive shakes with violence. Inside your sarcophagus, silence is impossible. Alarms howl in your ears. Your vision fragments into broken panes of red warning sigils and faint outlines of foes. One eye shows fire, the other static. Your body is no longer yours, it is machine, and the machine is failing. Lore masters still debate whether dreadnoughts are given mercy when their systems collapse. Some claim their sarcophagi shut down in blessed silence, sparing the pilot final pain. Others insist they remain awake, trapped in darkness, their last moments stretched into centuries. Looking through your fractured vision, you know which version you believe. You shift your bulk, servos screaming. One leg drags, half locked by a broken actuator. Your flamer coughs smoke, its fuel reserves empty. Your autocannon spits a final burst, then clicks dry. Only your power fist remains, sparking and shaking, but still lethal. You press forward, step by step. The guardsmen falter without your fire. They clutch empty lost guns waiting for death. Some break, running into the alleys, only to be cut down. Others stay, knowing they are doomed, but unwilling to abandon the iron giant that has become their wall. Historians still argue whether this regiment ever existed. Their banners are absent from records. Their names appear only in local legends, in half-burnt chronicles passed down by survivors. The administratum does not remember them, yet you do. Every lost gunshot that cracked beside you, every mortal voice shouting praise or curse. You carry them, whether history does or not. Your chest shakes with each impact. A melta-bomb slams against your flank, tearing away armor. You stagger sideways, toppling a wall. Dust blankets the street. Through it, the shapes of your enemies move, silhouettes of horned helms and jagged blades, blurred but unmistakable. They chant the names of their gods. You roar through your vox, a distorted, broken sound that shakes windows. It is not words, not anymore, just defiance made audible. Some guardsmen weep, others laugh, the kind of laugh that comes only when death is certain. One kneels in the rubble, whispering prayers, not to the emperor, but to you. You wish you could tell him not to. You are not divine. You are broken steel, burned flesh, and stubborn memory. The machine groans. Your mind flickers. Images bleed through. The face of your chapter master, long dead. The clang of a forge, long silent. The chill of your first entombment. A coffin without an end. You remember the moment you woke centuries ago, and the voice that told you, you will not rest. Not until you fall in battle. You think faintly that the voice has finally won. And yet, your fist swings again. A berserker explodes into red mist. Another is crushed into the ground. Each kill feels smaller, harder. The weight of your arm grows immense, as if the planet itself drags you down. Lore masters still debate whether the emperor hears prayers from the damned. Perhaps he does. Perhaps he does not. You find yourself speaking to him anyway, not with words, but with every step you force through shattered streets, every strike you land against your enemy. You ask for nothing. You only give. The silence inside you is spreading. Systems dim. Vox channels crackle and fade. Even the guardsmen's voices become distant. All that remains is the grind of your legs, the pulse of your reactor, the faint beat of a heart that might already be gone. You wonder if this is how it ends. Not in one great explosion, not in triumph, but in the quiet collapse of a machine too old to stand. You wonder if anyone will remember. But your fist still swings, and so the silence is broken again. The ground shakes, not from your tread this time, but from theirs. Something heavier than the berserkers approaches. You hear the grinding of armor plates, the growl of engines, the chant of a war band announcing its champion. Through your cracked vision, a figure takes shape. Towering horns, a blade that glows like a forge, armor blackened with blood and marked with runes that writhe like living things. He strides with the certainty of one chosen by a god. His followers howl at his heels, but they keep their distance. This is not their battle. Lore masters still debate whether such champions are born or made. Some claim they are mortals elevated by the fickle favor of the warp. Others argue they are forged deliberately, crafted by dark rituals to embody the will of their patron god. Here, the question does not matter. He is here, and he is coming for you. Your systems sputter. Only your fist remains functional, though each flex feels like tearing your own bones apart. You do not flinch. If this is a duel, then so be it. The champion speaks, though you can barely hear him over the static. He mocks you, perhaps, or he prays, maybe both. His followers echo his words in a guttural chorus. They believe victory is inevitable. Historians still argue whether duels like this are remembered in truth or myth. In the archives, they become exaggerated, turned into sagas where one titan stood against legions. But even the most cynical scribe admits, sometimes it really did happen. Sometimes a lone warrior truly did hold the line against an army. The champion charges. His blade carves arcs of light in the smoky air. You raise your fist. Sparks burst as steel meets warp-forged metal. The impact rings like a bell struck at the end of time. Rubble shatters. Guardsmen are thrown to the ground. The duel has begun. Your movements are slow but unstoppable. His are fast, frenzied, filled with unnatural strength. Each strike carves deeper into your armor. Each swing of your fist shakes him, but does not break him. You trade blows like titans, though you know one of you is already at the end. A guardsman fires a lost gun at the champion. The beam glances off his armor, meaningless. The champion doesn't even look. He is focused on you, as if the duel itself is a ritual offering to his god. Perhaps it is. Your vision fades in and out. Systems scream. Sparks shower your sarcophagus. Still, you hold. You cannot match his speed, but you don't need to. You are a wall. He is a storm breaking against you. Lore masters still debate whether duels between champions of chaos and heroes of the Imperium have meaning in the grand scale of the galaxy. Billions die every day. Entire planets are lost to plague or fire. Yet stories of single duels endure. Perhaps they endure because mortals crave meaning, even in hopelessness. Perhaps they endure because sometimes the fate of thousands really does rest on one clash of blades and fists. You grip his arm in your sparking fist. He roars, twisting, trying to free himself. You squeeze, servos shrieking, metal groaning. For a moment, you have him. For a moment, you remember what it felt like to be unstoppable. But the moment breaks. His blade cuts deep, severing one of your pistons. You stagger, almost falling. He tears free and raises his sword high. The guardsmen scream prayers, curses, laughter. You hear none of it. You hear only the grind of your failing body, the slow drumbeat of your heart, the inevitable sound of death approaching. Still you stand. Still you fight. The duel drags on. Time fractures into a rhythm of blows, sparks, and the shriek of metal. You swing, he dodges. He strikes, you block. Each motion carves another scar into your frame, another shudder through your failing body. The champion's blade burns hotter now, fed by chants from his followers. Warp fire licks across its edge. Each cut leaves molten lines across your armor, glowing like veins of lava. You counter with your fist, massive and relentless. One strike sends him sprawling into a wall, stone crumbling around him. For an instant, silence. Then he rises laughing, the sound distorted by his helm. Lore masters still debate whether chaos champions laugh out of joy, madness, or to mask their fear. In truth, it doesn't matter. Laughter echoes either way, and here, it drowns out the hymns of the guardsmen. You advance, one leg dragging, servos sparking. The champion circles, blade poised. His followers scream for him to kill you. The guardsmen whisper for you to hold. Both sides know this is the center of the battle, the moment upon which everything hangs. Historians still argue whether duels such as this decide the fate of entire campaigns, or whether they are remembered only because survivors cling to a story they can tell. Yet here, in this ruined hive, the duel feels like everything. The city's fires seem to burn in rhythm with your strikes. The walls crumble in tune with his blade. You lock fists with him again, his sword grinding against your knuckles. Sparks shower both of you. His helmet inches from your broken frame. Your Vox grill hisses, static, that almost sounds like words. If you could speak, perhaps you'd spit defiance. Perhaps you just laugh back. Pain floods your mind. Systems dim, one by one. Yet still you push, forcing him back step by step. Guardsmen cheer, their voices cracked and raw. For a heartbeat, they believe you might win. Then he twists, sliding his blade under your arm joint. Metal screams as it pierces deep. Warning runes blind your vision. You stagger, but your fist smashes into his chest, sending him tumbling. Both of you collapse to the ground, rubble crashing down. The duel pauses as smoke settles. Guardsmen and cultists alike wait, breath held, to see who rises first. Slowly you move, one arm gone, one leg half-locked. Your reactor sputtering, but you rise. The champion rises too, blood dripping, armor cracked. Both titans broken, yet both refusing to fall. Lore masters still debate whether stubbornness is virtue or curse in the Imperium. To them, you are proof of both. You cannot stop. You will not stop. But every second you continue is agony, stretched into eternity. The champion roars and charges again. You meet him, your fist slamming against his sword in one final clash. The hive trembles. Guardsmen weep. Cultists howl. And still you fight. The hive collapses around you. Your duel with the champion shakes foundations already cracked by bombardment. Towers topple, bridges crumble, and entire blocks fall into sinkholes opened by artillery. What was once a proud city is now a graveyard of stone and fire. The guardsmen scatter, pressed between the collapsing ruins and the advancing enemy. Some dig through rubble for comrades, others retreat blindly. A few stay, refusing to leave your side, even as death closes in. Their lost guns are empty, their voices hoarse. All they can do is watch. The champion lunges again, his sword leaving molten trails in the air. You parry with your ruined arm, servos shrieking as metal bends. Sparks burst across your chest. He pushes, pressing you toward the ruins of the cathedral. You resist, your foot grinding into shattered marble, refusing to give ground. Lore masters still debate whether hives were ever meant to stand for millennia. Some say their foundations were designed with imperial foresight. Others, that they were doomed to collapse under their own weight. Tonight, the answer is plain. Even stone and steel cannot outlast endless war. Historians still argue whether this city's fall was tactical or inevitable. Was it sacrificed for a greater campaign, or simply left to die in the shadows of forgotten wars? The records are thin, the truth buried. What survives are only stories like this one, of a giant who stood while the world crumbled. The duel rages on. His blade cuts deeper, scoring your sarcophagus. You strike back, smashing him into a collapsed column. The sound is deafening, echoing through the cavernous ruins like the toll of a funeral bell. Around you the city screams. Towers collapse like trees felled in a storm. Civilians hidden in basements and tunnels are crushed beneath the weight. Fires spread unchecked, painting the night sky red. The air grows thick, choking, as ash falls like snow. A guardsman kneels in the rubble, cradling his dying comrade. He looks up at you, eyes wide, as if your fight has meaning for him. Perhaps it does. Perhaps seeing you endure makes his suffering lighter. Or perhaps it just reminds him that even gods bleed. You stagger as another blow cuts into your side. Warnings flash across your vision. The champion laughs again, triumphant, but his own body bleeds freely. You see it, the weakness in his stance, the faltering strength behind his blade. You press forward, swinging again. Your fist crashes into his chest, driving him back. He stumbles, blood spraying from his mouth. He drops to one knee, snarling in rage. You loom over him, broken but towering. For a moment, you almost believe you have won. But the hive itself betrays you. The ground splits, rubble shifts, and your weakened leg buckles. You crash down beside him, shaking the street. Both of you lie in ruin, surrounded by death. Lore masters still debate whether this moment marked victory or defeat. Did the Dreadnought hold the line long enough for reinforcements? Or did his fall mark the true death of the city? The stories never agree. What they all share is the image of the duel. Two titans locked in combat while the world ended around them. You drag yourself upright, sparks spraying. The champion rises too, barely able to stand. Around you, the hive burns, its towers collapsing into dust. The city is gone. All that remains is you, him, and the silence of ruin. And still you fight. The air grows heavy, filled with smoke and the stench of ruin. You stand or something close to it, your frame trembling with every movement. Across from you, the champion sways, his blade still raised, his eyes burning with madness. Neither of you should still be alive, yet neither of you will yield. The guardsmen who remain no longer fight. They kneel, pray, or simply stare in silence. Some clutch icons, others clutch the empty air. They know they will not live to see another dawn. Their voices blend into a murmur that drifts through the smoke like a funeral dirge. Lore masters still debate whether the prayers of the doomed reach the throne. Some argue the emperor listens most to those on the edge of death. Others say their words vanish into the void, unheard. Tonight, the truth doesn't matter. What matters is that they pray and that you hear them. Your reactor falters. Warning glyphs blind your sight. Pain lances through your withered body inside the sarcophagus. Your world shrinks to two things: the hum of your dying machine and the figure standing before you. Historians still argue whether dreadnoughts think of themselves as men or machines at the end. Some claim they die clinging to their human memories, whispering names of comrades long gone. Others insist the machine consumes them, that they become nothing but war engines until their final spark fades. You don't know the answer. Perhaps you don't want to. The champion laughs again, though it is weaker now. His blade trembles in his hand. He raises it high, calling on his gods. His followers howl, their chants echoing across the ruins. The guardsmen answer with their own prayers, voices raw but steady. The two sides clash not with weapons now, but with words and faith. As you and the champion circle each other for the last time, you swing your fist, slow but unstoppable. He dodges barely and drives his blade into your torso. You seize his arm, locking him against you. Sparks explode. Your Vox grill groans with a sound almost like a growl. He struggles, snarling, but you do not let go. This is not about winning. This is about refusing to fall alone. You lift him, dragging his body closer. He screams, his blade cutting deeper. You squeeze, servos shrieking as your fist closes around his arm and chest. He thrashes, kicks, roars the names of his gods. And you, in your silence, speak only to one. You offer no bargains, no pleas, no demands, just a single thought. This is my last prayer. Let it mean something. Lore masters still debate whether prayers without words are heard, whether the emperor knows the hearts of his servants, even when their voices fail. You will never know, but you give the prayer anyway, pouring it into the act of crushing the champion in your grasp. The guardsmen see it. They see the two of you locked together, fire raining from the sky, rubble collapsing around you. To them, it is not a duel. It is a vision, a symbol, one last act of defiance at the edge of annihilation. You feel your reactor shudder. One more surge, one more moment of power, and then silence forever. You embrace it. The champion shrieks, blood bursting from cracks in his armor. He drives his blade deeper, piercing your core. Pain erupts like fire inside your coffin. Your vision fades to white, and still you hold him. The battlefield has grown strangely quiet. Not because the fighting has stopped, bolters still bark, lost guns still spit, but because every eye is fixed on you. The towering machine locked in death with the Chaos Champion. The guardsmen no longer fire. Their rifles hang slack, their lips moving in prayer or silent awe. The heretics too hesitate, their chants faltering, as if even they cannot look away from what is happening. You stand frozen, your fist crushing the traitor close to your ruined chest. His blade burns in your core, spilling fire and ruin through your frame. He screams in frenzy and terror, a sound that should shake the soul. But you feel no fear anymore. Only weight, only duty. Historians still argue what duty means to the Imperium's dead machines. Is it the echo of old vows, burned into what remains of their minds? Or is it simply the programming of broken flesh bound to iron? Perhaps it is both. Perhaps there is no difference. Your reactor pulses one last time, like the heartbeat of a dying god. Warning glyphs melt into static. The coffin inside your chest grows cold. You are sinking piece by piece into silence. The champion thrashes against you, desperation rising. His gods are not saving him. His strength is failing. His blade remains buried in you, but it no longer matters. He can wound, but he cannot escape. Your final act is not rage, not hate, simply refusal. Refusal to release him. Refusal to let him walk away to kill again. Refusal to surrender this ground, no matter how broken, no matter how lost. Some scribes say dreadnoughts end their lives howling litanies of vengeance. Others claim they fall into silence, like statues of iron finally at rest. But the truth is simpler. At the end, there is no choice left, only the will to hold on until the end of all things. The guardsmen see your body burning. They see the Chaos Champion locked in your grip, his howls turning to shrieks of panic. And for one fleeting moment they believe, not in victory, not in survival, but in meaning, that even here, even now, in the belly of despair, something holy can shine through. The champion's chest collapses with a wet crack. His blade drops from nerveless fingers. His eyes, once burning with the favor of dark gods, go wide with horror. He tries to speak, but only blood comes, and you do not let him fall. Your reactor finally gives way, exploding inward. Flame erupts from your frame. The guardsmen cry out. The heretics scream. The earth shakes, and then silence. The battlefield freezes, the echo of your end rolling over the ruins like a tidal wave. Ash rains down. Smoke curls to the heavens. And at the center of it all, Two corpses remain fused together, the broken shell of a dreadnought and the twisted body of a champion of the warp crushed into eternity. Lore masters still debate what happened that night. Did your sacrifice matter? Did it slow the tide, save a handful, inspire a world? Or did it vanish into the endless ledger of deaths that is the Imperium? None can say, but the guardsmen who lived told the tale. They swore they saw faith take form in steel. They whispered of a machine that prayed without words and was answered. Your story would not be written in Imperial records. Not properly. You were one of many who fell. Your name erased by time. Your deeds swallowed by the ocean of history. But for those who knelt in the ashes, for those who saw the light in the moment of your ending, it was enough. The flames cool. The battlefield lies in shadow. The voices fade, first the screaming heretics, then the murmuring guardsmen, until only wind moves across the ruins. You remain, locked in silence, your metal carcass fused to the corpse of the traitor champion. The survivors gather slowly. Their boots crunch over broken stone, their eyes darting at every sound. They do not speak loudly. The field feels like a tomb, and you are the monument in its center. One guardsman kneels before you. His hands tremble, his lips whispering a prayer he cannot remember fully. Another drops a battered ration tin at your feet, as if offering tribute. These are small gestures, fragile and clumsy, but they are real. Lore masters still debate why soldiers invent saints for moments like this. Perhaps it is survival. Perhaps they need a story to stand on when their legs can't. Perhaps, as some radical theologians hint, the Emperor listens most to the prayers born from desperation. The truth is simpler. Mortals need symbols, and tonight you have become one. Historians still argue whether the planet fell hours later or lingered weeks more under Imperial control. They argue whether reinforcements ever came, or whether the survivors were swallowed in the next wave of chaos. Records are scattered, lost, or contradictory. The administrative files treat it as one more line in a galaxy-sized tragedy. Fortress world lost. Defenders perished. Resistance collapsed. But the guardsmen remembered differently. They spoke of the dreadnought that refused to die until the enemy did. They carried that story to their deaths or to other worlds, where it lived on as rumor and prayer. Some regiments claimed you were a vision sent by the Emperor himself. Others insisted you were a cursed revenant, bound to linger forever in the ruins. The truth didn't matter. The symbol did. Your silence remains. Your frame rusts in the ashes. The champion's twisted corpse rots within your grasp. You do not move. You do not rise. You simply hold, as if even in death your hands refuse to open. And then time stretches. Decades pass. The planet changes hands again and again. Cities are rebuilt, then bombarded. Forests grow over the ruins, then are burned away in war. Still, the husk of the dreadnought remains. Scholars stumble across it. Soldiers leave offerings. Heretics spit curses at it, but nothing can erase it. Some whisper that in the deep night, when the wind howls through the broken stones, your vox still crackles faintly. A half-remembered hymn, a machine's prayer, a ghost. The galaxy never stops burning. New wars rise. New champions fall. New dreadnoughts awaken to take their place. But this battle, your final stand, has left a scar. Not large, not grand, but lasting in its own way. And in the end, that is what Warhammer 40K is built on. Not victories, not triumphs, just scars. Your story closes here. You are gone. But your presence lingers in memory, in prayer, in rusted steel standing against time. And now you can breathe slowly. Let the roars of the space wolves fade like smoke beyond the battlefield. The images dissolve into shadow, leaving only steady breathing and a gentle whisper. The Emperor watches, still even in your sleep. Now you can let go of the noise that clung to you through every clash of bolter and scream of heretic. The battlefield drifts farther away, as if carried off on a slow, gray tide. Every broken stone, every rusted chain, every fallen soldier dissolves into the dimness of memory. The sound of steel fades first, then the low rumble of engines, until only a steady hush remains, like the breathing of a vast, sleeping world. Your body softens, your shoulders drop, You sit in the quiet, and there's no pressure to hold onto anything more. The Dreadnought rests, the guardsmen are gone, and the fires have burned themselves to ash. What was once unbearable chaos now lies behind you, a shadow without weight. The air is cooler here. You can imagine it passing gently across your face, a soft current that smooths away the last rough edges of the night. The sky above no longer burns. It stretches wide and still, with only faint stars watching, patient and calm. You may notice how every thought becomes slower, every image more distant. Nothing demands your attention. Even the great wars of the Imperium shrink to whispers, stories told in a faraway hall that no longer reaches you. You are safe in this silence. Let your breath settle, long and easy. Let the quiet expand until it fills the room around you. And when you close your eyes, hear only a final murmur, almost too faint to catch, like a blessing meant only for you. The Emperor watches, still even in your sleep,